Hi, and thank you for joining me for another layout for the Around the World in 30 Days YouTube hop. This is where we scrap any form of travel photos, and this time I'm scrapping some photos of the day my husband and I went to Salem, which is near Boston. It was pictures of the witch house, which is actually where the judge who did the Salem witch trials lived back in the 1600s. So I know straight away that I'm going to stick these two photos together, so watch me struggle to get them in exactly the position I want them. But third time lucky, I'll get it down. It's just a close-up of the sign and then a picture of the actual house itself. I pulled out my Halloween papers for this because I thought they would be appropriate, and I'm wanting to go with the oranges and blacks and a little bit of that dark blue that's on the house there. So I'm just playing about with different papers there, and I've also pulled out some distress oxides that might be of interest because I want to use that Echo Park stencil that I've got showing there of the cobwebs. So first of all, I want to build up my photo mat with all these different papers, and then we'll go in with some mixed media after that. So I'll let you watch as I fiddle about and work out how to do my photo mat. And now that I'm finally happy with the positioning, I'm going to take the photos away and carefully glue everything down, just lifting up corners to add some wet glue so that I don't lose the positioning that I've worked so hard to achieve. So there we are, lifting up the photos, and I'll just glue all this down. And once the photos are glued down into a single mat, I'll go in with my trusty 25mm foam pads from Sticks 2 that we have on Hey Little Magpie website to raise the photos up to make them the focal point of the layout. So just using plenty of those to get it matted onto that. And now I'm going to go in with some faint pencil marks to mark out where that mat will go so that I can add my mixed media without having to put it all over the page, just so that it's like a halo around this mat. So just carefully adding those. And then we'll go in with the Distress Oxides. And first of all, I'm going to go in and create, as I say, like a halo around this mat. And I'm going to use the Fossilised Amber and Dried Marigold. And once that's done, I'm going to go in with a stencil with the black soot to create the cobwebs. So I'll leave you to watch that. And I've been carefully working around getting a small halo around where this layout's going to go, and then I suddenly realised that I want to use the stencil, so I really need to bleed it out much further on these sides so that I can have the black stencil overlapping these. So just extending the lines a bit there, and just spraying some water on is the quickest way to do that when you've got quite a concentration of colour, which I had. And then just adding some splatters to add bits of colour here and there. Checking that I'm happy with it, and that looks much better. So dabbing up some of the excess water, and then I'll leave that to dry. And now that's dry, we're going to go in with the black soot and the dauber, and just very gentle pressure, just getting this worked in through the stencil. And I'll gradually work my way. I'm just going to do this corner and check that I'm happy with it, and then I'll work my way all the way around, just with varied pressure, but never too black. I'm going all the way around, and I have to go back in because you can see that bottom left hand corner I've not done quite enough stenciling, so just lining it up and going back over it. And then you'll see I change position of the stencil as I move my way around the layout. So now I'm going to glue the photo and mat into position now that I'm happy with the background I've created, and then I'm going to go in and embellish. I don't have too many pre-made embellishments to go with these photos. Most of the Halloween ones are way too Halloweeny, and it's not a Halloween layout per se. So I had to give it a little bit of thought about exactly how I was going to embellish. I thought of the house paper straight away. That was something that I'd looked at before to map these with, and there's also that house on these Pebbles puffy stickers. So I'm first of all going to go in and hand cut 3 of these houses out, and one of the trees as well, because I quite like the feel of those. I won't make you watch me doing all of that, I'll just do this first one with you and then fade away and you'll see them all done. And I'm happy with the way that those houses look. So just gluing those down, but I don't glue the tree down yet because I'm not certain that that's its final resting place, and in fact it's not, so I'm pleased that I didn't do that. So just gluing these 3 houses rather, one on the photo and the others tucked behind. So just leave that tree to one side. And then I'm going to go in with my trusty tab punch to punch a tab for the date. I don't know why I put it there because I always put it at the top of the layout. I just have a little play with where I think I might put it, but it goes up there ultimately. And then coming in with these puffy stickers, I like the crows, so I want to just decorate with those 2. And then I'll come in with the other puffy house, and I think to the left of the photo first of all, but in the end it sits where the tree initially was on the right hand side, and then I'll just pop the tree behind that as an extra accent, just like that. And now it's time to start thinking about my journaling, and sometimes on a layout like this I'll journal around the edges of the paper, but I've decided that I want to make more of a feature of it, so I'm just trimming a piece of white card which I'm going to make into a tag. So just folding it over and cutting off the corners and checking the sizing, which I'm happy with. And I definitely don't want to keep it white, it's way too stark against the rest of the colours in this. So I'm going in with the Distress Oxide in tea dye and also Distress Oxide in black soot to create my own background on this tag. First of all, blending the colours. I'm not too worried about a great blend, I just want a mixture of the 2 colours, and then I'll go in with some water to oxidise them, and the finished effect is absolutely fantastic. I was very happy with that. So just making sure that I've got the right amount of black and tea dye on, and then I'll go in with the water. So here we go, and try not to add too much water, just adding a few drops, letting that sit for a little while before moving it around, and then I'll go in with a paintbrush and just gently dab, and you can see already where the ink is lifting from the bits where the water sat, and it creates a really lovely mottled effect which matches in perfectly with this layout. So using my We Are Memory Keepers whole reinforcer punch, which is brilliant for when you're creating your own tags, and it's also great for embellishing layouts. You'll see in a minute I use it to add some embellishments to this. So while I'm waiting for that to dry, I decided to go in with my notebook border punch. Again, we've got these on Hey Little Magpie in the UK Success section, and I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't line up the punch on the front as you should. I tried doing it on the back, so I missed a couple of the tabs, but you'll see it actually looks quite nice and rustic when I do add it. I can't decide whether to use the striped side or the black, but I end up with the black on the left hand side of the layout, and it just adds something, and it's quite quirky with those bits missing there. I'd roughed it up, so just finishing off, scuffing up the edges and bending that up a little bit so it doesn't look all new, and then that'll go down. And here I am again, going in with that whole reinforcer punch to punch out some more whole reinforcers, circles, which I will use dotted about the layout. And I'm definitely going to be doing this again. I really like how they look. Now turning my attention back to the tag now that it's dry enough to use. So sticking that whole reinforcer on there and then just checking again that it looks okay. And then I'm going to go in with a black gel pen. Oh, first of all, that's right, I noticed a pencil mark there. I hadn't stuck the mat down completely correctly. I tried rubbing it off but didn't want to rub too hard. So just move that crow over and that was fine. So just wafting the tag to make sure it's dry and then going in with my gel pen. Just doing a couple of lines around the edge, just to add a bit of detail. And it really finishes it off very nicely. So now I'm happy with that, going in with my pencil to make some guidelines for my writing. Being left-handed, I find it goes all over the place if I don't have some guidelines to write on. And today, even with the guidelines, I struggled a little bit. I think I'm out of practice of writing. We all use technology so much now. I really need to do a bit more letter writing and things to keep my hand in. So I'll just journal about the day. It was a really nice day. We've been on a bit of a fly drive to Boston and then round the area, and on the way back to Boston we decided to drive up to Salem, which isn't that far away, and see the witch house. So gluing that down just with my wet glue or double-sided tape. I find that I use those interchangeably depending on what I feel like. Wet glue is always so much quicker though, so that tends to be the go-to. And I've left the top free so that I can add some string in a bit. So just playing about with those whole reinforcer rings again. And I'm so sorry, I moved the layout just a little bit off screen so you can't quite see the top. There's not a lot more to see there, but I appreciate that is a bit frustrating. So now going through my hole punch to see if there are any pieces of paper that I've punched in the past to add to the layout, because these are quite nice little circles to add with those whole reinforcers. And I find a few that I think will work. I'm just playing about with the different colours. So going in and gluing those down. Because they're so small, they would just blow everywhere if I didn't glue them down straight away. So now turning my attention to the tab that I put the date on, and I'm just drawing around this with my gel pen to match that tag, and I'll glue that in place and then stamp the date on a scrap piece of white paper to add to that. So just getting it around to the 13th of November 2015 it was, sorry. And then going in with the tea dye. And I don't want it to be this stark white, so I'll cut it out and then just run over it with an almost dry paintbrush that has just enough water on just to blend the colour a little bit to take it to an off-white, but you still can see the stamped image very clearly, so you can still read the date. And again, just sticking it down with some wet glue. This is that Nouveau Deluxe adhesive, I love it. Nice thin, fine nib as well. And now some Hessian, natural coloured Hessian that I've got. I'm just going to tie onto the tag. And I consider tucking it underneath the house, but it looks a bit too neat. So I decided to just leave it running free, almost free, because I just glue a bit of it down, just to keep it more or less in place so it doesn't float over the photos while it's in the album. And then looking again, because I'm still not quite happy with the layout, and decide to just do lines around all of the papers. Again, just to add a bit of interest, and because we've got it around the tag and around the tab at the top that holds the date, this just ties it all together nicely. And then finally, just going in with a few more scattery bits. This is a sequin set called Tuxedo from Dotty About Flair. I love their sequins. It's something that Adam started doing recently. And these black ones are perfect. Some of them have like a petrol effect, so they have a blue flash to them, and others are just black, and they've got different sizes in them. So they're great for this layout. And once they're glued down, that's the end of it. So I wanted to thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you'll look down in the description box to see all the other YouTube people who are playing along with this hop, scrapbooking about their holidays, whether they're abroad or domestic holidays. I may well do a domestic one myself next week, but this is a series I shall continue to do on a Tuesday. Thanks so much. See you again soon. Bye.